a live 2019 fantasy football mock draft here with you guys as we get ready for the Game of Thrones next newest episode of Game of Thrones. I know you guys are probably excited to talk about Game of Thrones on top of fantasy football. How could you not? Sunday is dedicated right now to both football and Game of Thrones. So toss out your predictions for what's going to happen in tonight's episode. Do you think that who's going to get taken out? Definitely anxious to know and see. I'm going to be watching here in about an hour and a half. I'm sure most of you as well, watching live on HBO. Can't wait. But until then, we have a 2019 fantasy football mock draft to run through here. And I have set up already on screen here the rankings that are the most recent like ADP data. So we'll be dragging those around. This is not my mock draft. This is how the average player is being ranked across ADPs right now. So this is like a mix between a lot of the top ADP averages out there. So you're going to see me move these players around live here on YouTube as I do my own personal tweak type of mock draft to this data. I'd love to get your guys' opinion as I make the pick. So if I'm going to put here, if you have a pick, throw it out. So let's get right into it. First, I'm going to post this link over to a couple of different places. Make sure you guys know that I am live and up. Spread the word, guys. The channel is growing big. I want to say thank you to everybody for subscribing. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Please hit like. That goes a long way for the show, and we're growing big. We're growing faster than I think most fantasy football. What's going on, Michael? Faster than most fantasy football channels out there, and it's because of you guys. So very, very excited to bring this show to you on the regular. I want to make it even more regular, and to do that, I need to get the subscribers up. Let me put join me live on YouTube. Let me post this link. All right, so we're good. And I'm going to do an Instagram live as well here in a second. And then we'll get started on the mock draft. So if you're just joining me, go live here on Instagram. What's going on Instagram? We're live here on the Fantasy Football Show talking fantasy football mock draft. We're going to do a live mock draft here on youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show. So get on over to youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show and let's get mocking. Okay, so as you see up here, Michael, those of you in the room right now, I have my ADP data up essentially, and I'm going to drag and drop these guys around and tell you who I have and where I have them. So let's get into it. Okay, so the 1.01 for me, even though the average person, guys, jump on over to youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show if you want to follow along on the mock. You're not going to be able to see it here on Instagram, so get on over to youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show. A lot of people have Saquon here at the one spot, and I get that. I don't think that you could go wrong with any of the top four running backs in 2019. Barkley, Elliott, Kamara, McCaffrey. Any one of those guys is arguable at the 1.01 without question. But for me, the guy that's the most consistent is going to be Alvin Kamara. And, back-to-back 81 reception seasons, over 1,500 yards. He is the definition of consistency, and that offense is built, I think, to cater to him, and it's built around him, and I love the situation. So for me, it makes Alvin Kamara the safest pick, and I'm going to highlight the guys as I lock them in. So Kamara is the 1.01 for me. Ignore the dollar values here. So my number two is going to be Zeke Elliott. I know a lot of people will have Barkley at number two because they have Barkley at 1. So if he fell to most people, they would take Barkley at 2, and I don't think that's a mistake. What's going on, guys? Jump over to youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show so you can see the actual mock draft that I'm doing on screen. I get that Barkley's the most talented running back in the league. He really is, physically. But situation trumps that in some cases. And when the guy like Elliott or McCaffrey or Kamara is just as talented almost. I mean, I would say Barkley's probably the most gifted, but you got really, really almost equal talents there in those four guys. All of them are pretty parallel in terms of skill sets. And when you talk about situation, Zeke Elliott has an amazing situation. Since they acquired Amari Cooper during the season last year, as soon as they acquired Cooper, Elliott was, I believe, according to a lot of different rankings and analysis, the number one. What's going on, Devin? The number one fantasy football running back from the point that the Cowboys acquired Cooper. So there's an argument to be made that Elliott is the 1.01. But for me, I'm going Kamara, then I'm going Elliott, and then I'm going Barkley, so I can definitely check him off at this point. Again, this is not my mock draft. Everything below the red is the ADP, the average draft positions for these players, and I'm moving them around. And when I lock them into place, I'm locking them into that red color so that you know that is actually my mock. So everything in red is my mock. Everything below it is the ADP that I'm using and dragging and dropping up. And this is the rankings that you find on sleeperu.com. It makes it really fun to draft, makes it really fun to prep, and get your players ranked where you want them. So Dallas O-line is actually down last year. They are healthy. This is a comment by Michael. They are healthy this year. Yeah, Michael, I just think that we're looking at a big. Guys, get on over to sleeperu.com/thefantasyfootball. I'm sorry, get on over to youtube.com/thefantasyfootball show. I'll be there live. I'm going to end this Instagram. So, clear 1.04 is Christian McCaffrey. I mean, it would be really hard. It would be hard to argue anybody taking him at the 1.01. I love McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey is definitely going to have a huge season. I do worry about his usage in terms of dynasty, but that's down the road for 2019. He'll be fine. I think he's a great 1.04. Then after that big four, really, you could argue that any one of these guys belongs at 10 or they belong at 5. For me, Hopkins, I think I'll keep him right where he is according to the ADP data. He is my 1.05. I just think the volume's there. He's in his prime. He looks amazing, and that offense will only get better once they get more dynamic, and they're able to, I think, run the ball a little bit better in 2019. Watson's 1 year further removed from his ACL tear, so he's going to be more efficient. I just think that things can only get better for Hopkins as long as he stays healthy, and I have no concern about him staying healthy. Hard-working wide receiver, one of the hardest working in the league, and just really in a good offense that is getting better. So I think he'll find definitely the opportunities he had last year and more in 2019. Davante Adams is very arguable here, but I think I'm going to roll with I'll go Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon has 10 TD potential any season he's playing. Locking him in. Again, locked in players are in red. The players below are actually the ADP order, so you'll see me drag from that pool of players and lock them into my mock draft in the red. Gordon, to me, there's some injury risk, and that's why I wouldn't take him 2, 3, or 4, but he's capable of being that good in that 2, 3, 4 range. So really, I wouldn't call him a bargain at number 6 because it's still very high, but I think that the risk is minimized a lot more getting him at 6 or 7, given that, even if he missed a couple of games, he probably could still earn you that value. Now, if Melvin Gordon didn't miss a single game, he probably would score like a top 2 or 3 overall pick. So pretty safe pick, I think, in the 6 to 8 range. If you're lucky enough to get him there, in that 7, 8 range, you're even better off. But Davante Adams and Mike Thomas are a tough call here for me. I could go either way with these guys. I think they're both going to have similar seasons, but I think Mike Thomas is a little bit higher ranked than Davante Adams for me, so I'm going to lock Thomas in, then I'll lock Adams in. And then now we're going to get a little bit controversial, I think, because a lot of people are going to have Connor here. A lot of people are going to have Todd Gurley here. And you guys know how I feel about Todd Gurley in 2019. I think he's the biggest bust candidate. We've seen it in quite a long time as people are ranking him. And it's a lot about where he's ranked. Is there a place where I will pick him? Yes, you're going to see that in a minute. You're going to see Smitty take Todd Gurley for probably the first time. And you're going to be shocked that I draft him. but at some point you do draft him because you can handcuff him, you can trade him. I just think that I'll never be put in an actual real life situation, a real draft where somebody lets him fall to me to where I have to make that decision. But I'll show you where my line in the sand is for Todd Gurley and where I would pick him. But Todd Gurley, to me, is nowhere close to this range. James Conner, I wouldn't take anywhere near here because I've released a lot of content on James Conner. The fact that Eddie Faulkner, the running backs coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was Jalen Samuels' coach in college at NC State, where he used Jalen Samuels a lot in the passing game, so much so that Samuels entered the NFL as a rookie last year as a tight end eligible player on top of being a running back eligible player because he catches the ball so well and did so well under Faulkner at NC State. Now Faulkner is the running backs coach, not saying that by itself will anoint Samuels the starting job, and I'm not saying that he'll take it outright from Conner, but Conner proved that he couldn't stay healthy last year. That in itself, getting hurt one time, wouldn't be a total red flag. Avoid Conner, but you mix in the fact that Samuels looked just as good, if not better as a wide receiver, better as a receiving back, but just as good in terms of running the football. Given the fact that Conner did break down, they may want to try and keep him healthy this year. Given the fact they drafted Benny Snell, who by himself could be a top 5 to 10 running back if he was in this lineup. So for me, the move to make, pass on Conner as long as you can until it becomes just ridiculous value, which I'll show you where that is, and then draft Samuels and Snell together as a secret weapon stash and pick another player instead of Conner. And then you have the best of both worlds if your league rosters are big enough and you're able to draft a running back like that duo to stash on your bench. Not everybody can take a couple backup running backs on the roster because the rosters are small. So know your league, know your league size, your roster sizes, and don't try something like that unless you can actually make it work for your team. But for me, I'm passing on Conner here. I'm going to drag Conner down quite a bit because, again, I am not taking him anywhere near this range. So let's drag him right down here where Gurley is for now. I'm going to say that my next pick would be Lev Bell. Lev Bell is arguable anywhere between 8 and 12, I think. Some drafts I could mock draft tomorrow and rank him 10. Rank him 8, rank him set. I probably wouldn't go as high as 7 because I think Mike Thomas, I think Adams even, and Hopkins. Yeah, so given Gordon, I think the highest I could go with Bell would be 9, so I take that back. Given these options above him, probably in no way can I see myself passing on any of these options for Bell. But Bell locked into 9, 10. Very, very arguable in that spot. Julio's arguable here. David Johnson's very arguable. Odell Beckham Jr. I'm going to raise up here because I think his value is right around this range. I would even consider taking him at the bottom of the first round. Julio as well. And then I guess I'm going to throw David Johnson. Let's see here. I'll put DJ right above Julio and lock this in as my top 12. Put him right here. Odell Beckham Jr., he's changing teams. He hasn't stayed healthy, but he's going to be happy in that environment playing alongside his best friend, Jarvis Landry, getting thrown the football by Baker, touchdown maker, who's going to have a huge monster season in 2019. Wouldn't be shocked at all if the Browns were a deep playoff playing team that made the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I actually have my Super Bowl ticket for the Browns right here on the wall in this frame, hopefully to be cashed at the end of the year. No, I'm not crazy or being blind, fan-based driven prediction. This is me looking at this team and looking at how potent they are, looking at how they could probably be. Yeah, Michael, I like DJ a lot too this year. I think he's very underrated. Looking at how this offense is going to mirror a lot of the way Kansas City, exploded and became so aggressive. And I know a lot of people think there's too many mouths to feed, so Beckham won't get his, or Landry won't get his, or Chubb won't get enough touches, or if Hunt gets in there, he won't get enough touches. But they're going to up the production a ton. It's going to be like that offense is on steroids. They're going to have enough production to go around just like Kansas City did once they get used to that, that offense and spreading it out. And it took Kansas City, if you remember, a while to get everybody the football on a regular basis. Everyone was freaking out about Kelsey's usage. People are freaking out about Kareem Hunt through a couple weeks into the season because he wasn't being used, and they figured it out. There are a lot of mouths to feed. Yes, it could be maybe tricky in week 1, week 2. There might be somebody left out, but as they get comfortable deploying this high octane offense, they will learn to spread it around, and that offense will be fine. Odell Beckham Jr., very capable, I think, of 12, 13 TDs and a very happy, very productive, very potent season for him. I think he'll be one of those good stories where a wide receiver does change teams and blows up immediately. He is an amazing quarterback throwing him the football. This is not Eli Manning. Yeah, Eli Manning used to be good, but Baker Mayfield, and Giants fans will not agree with this. They'll probably be upset, but I see Baker Mayfield blowing Eli Manning's best days out of the water. I think Baker Mayfield is in for a top 3 fantasy football QB season. Dean is asking a question here. Why Bell above DJ, and what are your thoughts on the two? So, as I mentioned earlier, Bell kind of locked into that 9 spot, and looking at it, my first thought was, I could draft him a spot or 2 higher, but then looking at it, Melvin Gordon, Mike Thomas, Davante Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Bell can't really climb any higher than the 9 spot for me when looking at it again here. But I think 9 to 12, I could see Bell fluctuating in that range for me, from 1 week to the next. This is like a blender type situation from 9 until really 14, 15, where you don't know, the news could make you fluctuate your rankings, or just, watching more film or reading more on how, the Cardinals may deploy David Johnson more in the passing game and make him a more efficient back. You could literally change your 9 to 14 on the daily. So to answer your question, I like DJ a lot. I like him enough to put him number 9. But I think Bell, the last time we saw Bell play, he was a beast. And yeah, he held out for a year. I know a lot of people think he could get hurt because he held out, but it's not like he held out like a player holding out in week 4 or through week 1 through 4, where they come back and they're not in football shape, they're not used to getting hit, and they get injured. He had a whole offseason to get healthy, to rest. Yeah, he needed to get in shape, but he's had a whole offseason to get in shape. So it's very different than like holding out during a year. I don't think the injury concern is that big of a deal. It's more so maybe did he lose a step? Did he have a decline during that time off that he would have had during the year if he had been playing? Who knows? We've never really seen a player of his caliber take off, come back, and dominate, but we haven't really seen a player of his caliber at the prime of their career take off, come back, and fail. For me, I think the volume will be there. He's Le'Veon Bell. He is not a product. He is partially a product of that Pittsburgh Steelers offense, but anybody would be in that Pittsburgh Steelers offense. That's why I love Jalen Samuels and Benny Snell together instead of drafting Connor this year, because you can get somebody else and add those 2 backups and have that James Conner of 2019 on your bench waiting, stashed away. But Bell, regardless of how productive that Pittsburgh Steelers offense made Bell and makes anybody, Bell is still physically one of the most gifted running backs, if not the most gifted running back in the entire league. Just like Antonio Brown is probably the most gifted wide receiver in the entire NFL. And I'll get pushback for that because everyone loves to hate Antonio Brown. But Antonio Brown is impossible to cover one-on-one. He hasn't lost a step. Watch some of the film on him training right now. I'm not saying that Antonio Brown's situation's totally ideal, but there is a chance he's top 5 in 2019 as far as receivers go. At least that's his ceiling. And I'll talk about that in a minute, which makes him such a great value pick this year because he has that potential. But Bell and Antonio Brown, just because they run such a potent offense with Ben Roethlisberger and that Pittsburgh Steelers attack, doesn't mean that they aren't the players that can be top 5 on another roster. So Bell to me is arguable anywhere in that range. So is DJ, and I think DJ is going to be in that air raid attack that's spread out. I think Kingsbury is going to do a great job getting Kyler Murray in a position to succeed. He's a good decision maker. He's so dynamic as a runner, and the fact that they're spreading things out so much, running a lot of two wide receiver set or two slot receiver sets, just spreading the hell out of the field. David Johnson's efficiency is going to go up a ton. Even if his production went down a little bit, or his carries or workload, his efficiency in yards per carry, yards per catch will go up significantly, and they will be more so living in the red zone than they were in previous years. So the touchdown opportunities, even if he had less, carries to goal line carries, he's going to have more total touchdown potential. So I really like DJ a lot, and I like Bell a lot. And you know who else I like a lot is Dalvin Cook. Who I am going to bring up the list here. Sorry, let me fix this. Where is my boy Dalvin Cook? Let me move some things around here, guys. Sorry. All right, Dalvin Cook, where are you? Let's get you up here, buddy. You are in my top 12 to 14 easily. I've even ranked him in the 9-10 spot before in some mock drafts. Again, if anybody thinks that even us so-called experts and writers don't change on the regular, almost on the weekly with our rankings, that writer or whoever is not being honest with you. If I did a mock draft an hour after this show, it wouldn't be identical to this one. Because, I mean, depending on how deep you went, if you went top 10, would be. But you can make arguments all along the way. I could argue that Damian Williams is going to be a top 20 pick, and we'll see when we get there. But I'd also say, you know what, I'd probably let him fall because I'd want to get him as my third drafted player. There's so many ways you could go, and there's so many players that have very, very high risk, high reward situations, so you might plug them in a crazy spot. What's going on, Cool Hand? Finally here. Glad you're here, man. Keep asking questions. Let's go through this mock. If you got a recommendation. So in red is my mock draft. So if you look at the players in red, this is my mock draft right here. The players below are the players that are available based on ADP. So I have, let's review. We have Alvin Kamara going 1.01, Zeke Elliott going at 2. We have Barkley at 3, McCaffrey at 4, Hopkins at 5, Melvin Gordon at 6, Mike Thomas at 7, Davante Adams at 8, Le'Veon Bell at 9. What's going on, Warren? Hit that thumbs up, guys, for me, if you don't mind. Get this video out there so YouTube can promote it to the people that are watching and looking for content right now before the Game of Thrones event tonight. So please spread the word, and one way of doing that is to hit that thumbs up right there. So I appreciate it, guys. Where was I? Le'Veon Bell at 9, Odell Beckham Jr. at 10, David Johnson at 11, Julio Jones at 12, and Dalvin Cook, a surprising to some people, I believe it will be at least, 13 at 2.01. And what do you know? There's Gurley and Connor, but guess what? Not going to take them. In fact, Todd Gurley, James Conner, and Joe Mixon right here are three guys that I'm not necessarily avoiding until the end of time, into the bottom of the third and fourth round. Not that they would fall that far, but if I'm doing a mock, but I'm still not taking them here. I don't see these guys as a low risk enough at this point. Scrolling down, let's take a look at who's available. Make sure we're not missing anybody. Thanks for hitting thumbs up, guys. I'm going to roll with Juju Smith Schuester with the 14 pick. I'll lock him in at red. These are the rankings here on sleeperu.com. If you want to have interactive live rankings like this, makes it fun and a good way to draft too, because you can check it off during your draft. Make the players red, drag them around. What do you guys think of that pick? You're still in season 1? Cool. Hand, what are you doing? Get on it, man. Okay. Next up, who are we going, guys? Who would you go? Toss out your pick. Who would you go at number 15? Again, no Todd Gurley. Cool hand, that's correct. At some point we'll take him, but the point will be that he won't fall to the range that he's going to fall to in this mock, but I will have a line in the sand where I do take him correct. Who do you guys take right here? So in red are my picks so far, and in white are the available players based on like ADP. So I'm not necessarily going to draft the players below the red selected players in that order, but they tend to, at least be pretty close. So toss out a name. Do you go Todd Gurley here? Do you go James Conner? Do you go Joe Mixon? I think a lot of people would probably go Joe Mixon here if they wouldn't go Gurley, which would be, I would say most people would go Gurley here. Where's the thumbs up on mobile? It should be right there. Yeah, I'm pretty close to putting Antonio Brown on the board here. I think people are very, very much undervaluing him. It's probably who I will take, but I'm definitely curious to hear what you guys think and who you take. AB, I'm agreeing, Dean. I'm feeling AB. And while that might not sit well with some people that love to hate on him, the guy hasn't showed us a decline yet. Until AB shows a decline, I think he's warranted at top 15 value because he has top 5 overall wide receiver value. And when you have top 5 overall wide receiver value, how are you a risk at all in the top 15 to 18 range? Even, I've seen AB fall all the way to 24. AB can win you a league in the 15 to 20 overall range. Absolutely win you a league. He's low risk there. He can have his, slow start. He might struggle to stay healthy maybe. Changing teams is never a great thing for a wide receiver. Derek Carr isn't the most amazing quarterback, although I think he's crapped on a little more than he should be because he's now has a weapon that's going to make him sufficient at least. But AB can earn you top 15 to 20 value even if he disappoints a little bit, has a slow start, misses a game or two, has bad rapport at first with Derek Carr until they figure things out. He has risk built into that top 15 to 20 overall value. AB, Antonio Brown, can win you a league in 2019 if you take him here, I think. Kelsey's a good... So I will rank Kelsey next. I think that's a good ranking, although I don't know that I could find myself taking him, and that's kind of a weird thing to say. I think it's hard for me to build the best team. I shouldn't say hard. It's not my favorite style. I feel like I walk out of my draft and I'm not in love with my team when I take a tight end that early. But he warrants this pick. His value is there. So if you do like drafting that way, and some people do, Kelsey's a fine top 14 to 18 overall pick. No question. Mike Evans, I think, deserves a look here. Kittle deserves a look. I'm going to throw Mike Evans up here at the 17 spot. Now, where do you guys take Todd Gurley? Do you take Joe Mixon here? I think Joe Mixon probably deserves a look before Gurley, in my opinion, before Connor. Connor is getting to a point where I would potentially take him because he won't fall as far. I'm letting him fall way further than most people would by almost like 10 to 12 picks. So I think at this point, late second round, I would potentially take Connor because if you were to for sure handcuff him, you would be in a good position. And the risk here is a lot lower than it is at the top 7 to 12 range. That's where I have the problem. I don't dislike Connor. He was my number 2 bold prediction for 2019. People, I think, interpret what I say about Connor a little bit differently than they should be interpreting it. I like Connor. I don't like his value at all. I hate his value at top 7. It's ridiculously high, but I'm letting it fall to like 19. At that point, he becomes lower risk as your second drafted player, not your first drafted player, and your late second drafted player, a guy you're taking at the tail end of the second round, or at least the bottom half, a lot less risk. So you'd have to make sure you handcuff him, but this is where I would start entertaining taking James Conner. Connor before Gurley, Chubb, and Cook, says Caribbean. Yeah, I am not a fan of Gurley. If you haven't seen any of my content on that, or is that just might be your take, that's fine. I totally respect that take, and I respect anybody wanting to take Gurley. And if you handcuff him to Darryl Henderson, you might have a chance of getting the value that you're hoping to get out of that combo. What are you guys thoughts on Chubb here? Damian Williams, I think, is inching toward this value. Ertz, Kittle. Again, I probably wouldn't take a tight end that early. I'd take a tight end at the top of the third. I don't know that either one of those guys would fall. And they may. Kittle might fall. Kittle seems like the more likely candidate to fall into the third round, and I would take Kittle there. I think Kittle is a great value there. And the third round to me gets really cloudy. So I think Chubb and Damian Williams are looking pretty good at this spot. So is Kittle to me, but I think Kittle will fall. I'm gonna drag Damian Williams up and make him the number 20 overall pick. I think Damian Williams in that Kansas City attack is going to be leaned on heavily. I think they're going to utilize him to the same degree that they utilized him to end the year, where he was like a top 5 running back in his final run of games, including the playoff games, where he had essentially, I believe, 10 total touchdowns in 6 games. If you include his 2 playoff games and everything from, I believe, week 14 on, 10 total TDs in 6 games. And over 600 yards in those 6 games. So he was a 600-yard back in those 6 games with 10 TDs. Very, very efficient, and I think that we're looking at a huge year for Damian Williams. Let's go Chubb next, and then you guys might be shocked, but I'm starting to consider about time to draft Gurley, which I think is going to shock people that he falls that far. I don't know that I'm quite ready yet. Let's keep going. Chubb is a good pick here if you handcuff him to Kareem Hunt, which shouldn't be a problem because taking the temperature of everybody out there in the comments of all of my Kareem Hunt posts, where I put a post on Instagram saying he could be a sleeper redraft pick in 2019. Thank you for the thumbs up. If you haven't thumbed up the video, please give me a thumbs up. It does help with YouTube knowing that this video needs to be spread out to people looking for live content right now. We are live. What's going on, Carrie? Thielen's getting closer, but I wouldn't take Thielen this high. I don't blame you for wanting to take him this high. I'm going to say I think Cooper's too high. Fournette's way too high. Montgomery's going to inch higher on my board than most people. I'm going to drag him a little bit higher so I don't forget to draft him a little bit earlier than normal. AJ Green's a decent value in the next 10 or so picks, I think. Drag him up so I don't forget to draft him. I like Devonta Freeman a lot. I might go Devonta Freeman pretty soon, guys. A lot sooner than most people. T.Y. Hilton's a good pick. Caribbean kid. I do agree with you. I'm going to go... I'm tempted Montgomery here, to be completely honest, and I know that a lot of people might find that too early for a rookie, but I really think he's going to have a huge rookie season and a big career in the NFL. I don't think it's crazy to take a rookie running back in the top 22. I don't think it's crazy to take him, in the top 22 to 25. Not sure I'm locking him in there, but I want to drag him there and take a look at this. See, even some so-called expert like myself, a writer, I have been doing this 15 years. I do consider myself a fantasy football writer, but you guys have knowledge. You guys have tremendous knowledge. Some of you are as good as some of the writers out there. And I've seen it in a lot of the forum posts that you make and the leagues that you play in and all the stuff that I see on sleeperu.com. So you guys have tremendous value. Don't ever think that you have to listen to some writer. Take in the information, make the best decision using all the data and facts and predictions that you find. So if you have Hilton here, you have Gurley here, you have a tight end in the top 15, trust your gut more than anything and just take in the information that you get from the so-called experts and writers out there and make your own decision because you're the one that has to live with it. But just use the fantasy football advice that you get from like sites like mine and channels to guide you. So you may not like Montgomery this high. Cool Hand says Thielen, Henry, Gurley, and Hilton would be his next picks up. Warren says no Todd Gurley. Cool Hand says he agrees with the Chubb pick. And Caribbean Kid says go T.Y. Hilton. I am going to go with Montgomery. And I know that's going to be high for some people, but I don't care because that's how I feel. and I predict Montgomery to have a huge rookie year and a big-time career in the NFL. I love Montgomery. Montgomery is my number one running back right now in this 2019 rookie running back class. Singletary's right up there, and I know that that's a little high for a lot of people. Use ADP to your advantage. Don't take Singletary as a second-ranked rookie running back. You don't have to. The whole point is being ahead of the curve here, picking the next Alvin Kamara out of the group of players, just like Alvin Kamara was a top 5 to 7 overall rookie his rookie year and rookie-only mock drafts and 2017 rookie-only drafts, but he was a diamond in the rough. Singletary has that potential, but the guy that has moved to my number 2 rookie running back spot, which I think shocks a lot of people, and they call me pretty crazy for it, is Darryl Henderson. Darryl Henderson, I'm not picking him anywhere near here, but Darryl Henderson is going to be on my roster in a ton of leagues, if not every league I can get my hands on in 2019, whether it's redraft, whether it's dynasty. He's undervalued in dynasty because he has a late first-round ADP, unless you're drafting with a bunch of Sleeper U and thefantasyfootballshow.com followers and users, because you guys are in the know. You guys know how good Darryl Henderson's going to be. But in a regular draft with Joe Schmoes that don't follow the Fantasy Football Show or SleeperU.com, you're going to find Darryl Henderson oftentimes falling into a ridiculously late first-round range, and he's going to be a monster. But Montgomery and Darryl Henderson, my top 2 backs, Montgomery's going to have an immediate impact right out of the gate, given he's been drafted to start for the Bears, who want to run the ball between the tackles. They love Tariq Cohen, but they're going to use Tariq Cohen as a dynamic wide receiver roaming threat, and they're going to run the ball big time through David Montgomery. There will be enough carries and receptions to go around. He's a rookie. You don't want to wear him out right out of the gate, so easing him in is a good idea. And although Cohen is dynamic, and Cohen was on the bold predictions list back-to-back years, I love Tariq Cohen. I feel like I found that guy in terms of fantasy, because I don't think you could find anybody that ranked him higher than I did both years. He was on my bold predictions for both years. But I don't think he's the long-term running back answer for the Bears in terms of that heavy-duty production. And I said this back when Jordan Howard left. I made a video that said, what's going on, Cool Hand? I made a video that said that the Bears would draft, I believe, the 1.01 rookie. And if you look at those comments, it got pretty ridiculed for that, saying they got Tariq Cohen, they got Davis, they're not going to go get a running back. I firmly believe that the number 1, the 1.01, or at least the 1.02, if you like N'Keal Harry higher, like I do, the 1.02, but the top running back is in Chicago. So it, to me, was a great spot, and it looks like to be, I think, the best spot for running back. So David Montgomery is going to go 22. I think, wow, this is a tough one. I think I'll throw, I think Kittle is warranted there. Again, don't know that I would particularly draft him there. I might in this situation. He looks... The options here are kind of getting shadier as we go and more cloudy. And I think Kittle, if you can make some other trades and land some of your other sleepers, you might be okay drafting him in that 24 to 29 range. So I think Kittle is a good spot here. I think Gurley probably needs to go at this point, if not only for trade value alone. Although I feel like if you own him, you would be hard-pressed to trade him for the value you're drafting him at. So let's let him go another pick, actually, because I don't know that I can ever make him my second-round player. I just don't think I can do it. I don't think I can give that kind of advice because I just don't believe in him. I think I love Gurley. It's never been about his personality. It's never been he's a great person. A lot of people think I throw hate at him. I'm not throwing any hate at him. I just don't believe in his situation or his value in fantasy football given the knee injury. It has nothing to do with Todd Gurley being a bad person. It's nothing to do with me taking something personal, or everyone says it's I'm taking it personal, and I'm creating a lot of crazy content on the guy, but it's around the fact that people are drafting him way too high and they're not seeing the risk. I think AJ Green deserves to be up in this range. I think T.Y. Hilton needs to go soon. Let's go with T.Y. at 24, and we'll go Todd Gurley at 25. And with the recommendation that even though I'm drafting him, probably I would say 15 picks after the average expert or writer would take him. I would easily venture to say that I'm 15 picks further down, which is probably considered pretty crazy. You could probably handcuff him to Henderson and feel pretty good about that value. And I think you definitely have to reach for Henderson and make sure you get him. I know Kerry said he'd rather have Kittle than Ertz, but that's really early. I think a lot of people would rather have Ertz. I do believe you were correct. But I'm kind of making a statement there that I think Kittle is going to dominate and have a big year with Garoppolo back, with that offense, I think, improving, getting some more weapons, and having a year. I think Kittle could have a big year. Ty, two up and down. Yeah, but a lot of people have him, higher ranked than I have him. So I can definitely see ranking him lower. I could definitely see ranking him higher. I think it's kind of arguable, but I do agree that he is a little bit scary to be your second drafted player. Right here, though, look at all the names that are there. AJ Green, Zach Ertz, Adam Thielen. I know you like Adam Thielen, Kerry, but they're going to run a lot more in 2019, and I don't know that I trust him as my second drafted player. Yeah, Ty is kind of inconsistent, but he's in an awesome offense, and he has Andrew Luck throwing him the ball. Andrew Luck's back. Andrew Luck's supposed to remain this top 1 to 4 overall QB moving forward. So I see no reason why he can't be ranked in the top 24. But I totally get it if you want to have him at like 25, 30, whatever. This group is a crazy close group and a very cloudy group. For me, I think AJ Green's right up there, Ertz is right up there, Thielen's right up there. I could leave these guys in this exact order and be fine with it. I probably would move Freeman up above Henry. I know some people might not like that. People think that Freeman has a lot of risk, but honestly, he has no one there but Ito Smith, and you can easily handcuff those guys together and I think have a pretty safe, really good running back 2 that has more upside than running back 2 value. I think Henry deserves to be in this top 30. I think Henry could be a top 5 to 10 running back at times in 2019 in non-PPR, and I think in PPR he's still close to top 10, top 12, which would be warranted at this spot. I think Keenan Allen's in a good spot there. I think I'd move Cooper above him, which some people might not like, but I'm pretty good with that. One thing I will say that I think is going to upset people, like it usually does, is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to grab Pat Mahomes, and I'm going to bring Pat Mahomes into this mock draft, and I'm going to raise him up to a level that's going to make, whoa, not that high. Slow your roll there, Smitty. No, I'm not making him my number 1. That's where someone's going to freeze frame this and go, Smitty made Patrick Mahomes his number 1. I'm dragging this, and it's it's moving a little crazy. So let me make a point here. It's got a real lag. So it's kind of like I'm trying to drag this player around and it's not working well. Let me make a point here. Patrick Mahomes, to me, has this value. Would I take him this high? No, because I don't have to. But if his ADP rose to 24 overall, I would pay this value every time. And I know that's going to not set well with people that love to wait on a QB. I know, I've heard it for 10 years. Waiting on a QB is the only way to go, Smitty. Not to drafting a QB early is a recipe for disaster. I've heard it over and over. It's irrelevant to me. I don't care. I don't care about your I wait on a QB approach, if that's not speaking to any of you guys. I just don't care. I will take Patrick Mahomes at this value if I have to every single time. The great news is he's going in the late 3rd round, so I wouldn't recommend that you pick him here. Without Hill, absolutely. He is, even if he throws for 40 TDs and he has a down year, which would be the kind of year he would have. He has Damian Williams. Mahomes was a championship winner for everybody. But to lose, everyone thinks that you just take Tyreek Hill's stats out of the equation, that he's going to score that much less. He's not. when you're, and this is a weird analogy, but I use it a lot with this. When you're running a mile and you stop halfway to walk, and you walk a quarter mile, and then you start running again, you don't have half a mile left. You have now a quarter mile left because you walked half of it. You walked it slower than you would have run it, but you still were making progress. When you take T.Y. Hilton out of that lineup, you're not taking away everything. You may insert somebody like Mecole Hardman, who's walking a little bit before he gets to running. He absorbs less of those stats than Tyreek Hill was scoring. But Mecole Hardman's going to have a very good rookie year, even if he has just 900 to 1,000 receiving. Let's say 900 because he's being force-fed into a role where he's got to perform as a rookie. He could still have 7 scores and 900 receiving yards, maybe 1,000 because of his situation. That's still a really good year. It's not Tyreek Hill numbers, but you don't even know for sure that you're going to lose those numbers because Pat Mahomes might redistribute them around to Kelsey, to Sammy Watkins. Watkins can't stay healthy, or hasn't. But in this situation, maybe he does have his stat line go up a tremendous amount, given that they're going to lean on him. Hardman is fast, 4.33 speed. I believe is just a tiny bit faster than Tyreek Hill. Who knows how fast Hill is now? He might be faster than 4.33 speed because he just looks so quick. But Mecole Hardman is just as quick, just as fast. He runs the ball. He throws the ball. He catches the ball. He returns the ball. He's a little clone of Tyreek Hill. Now, will he be as good? I'm not saying he will. He could be. I'm not going to say he won't be. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I think he will be better, because Tyreek Hill was amazing. But how good was Tyreek Hill? Was Tyreek Hill on another team a good receiver? Or did Pat Mahomes make him into a better player than he really was? And will we see Mecole Hardman? Will we see Hardman become a better player than he is? That's the nature of playing with a Pat Mahomes. That's the nature of playing with an Andrew Luck or playing with a Aaron Rodgers. Is Davante Adams really the top 3 or 4 wide receiver in fantasy football based on talent? Probably not. That might upset people that love Davante Adams, but Davante Adams is definitely not going to be as good as he is on another team unless he goes to a team that has as good a quarterback. Mecole Hardman. Hardman is fast. Yeah, Hardman. Anybody want to look that up? Because I don't want to leave the screen here that I have set up here. But I believe Hardman's time was faster than Hill's. I believe. If someone wants to look up that stat, I want to say it was like a 4.33 versus a 4.34. Somebody find that for me and post it here. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that the 40 time, I'm not saying that Hill didn't become faster. Yeah, a few weeks ago, Steve says that Tyreek Hill was getting kicked out of the league, and now we don't know. Hill could play. So my whole point here is not that I would draft Patrick Mahomes at 24. I would if I had to. If his ADP climbs there, I will draft him there. I'll do videos on it. You'll see me shovel this information down everybody's throat because it's important. When something's important, like the Todd Gurley stuff, I do multiple videos on it because the ADP is not changing. So from my perspective, you might ask, why do you keep doing videos on Todd Gurley? And I know that could be annoying at times for people that are watching every single piece of content, so I apologize in advance. I will try to provide a different angle when I do it, like my fireplace episode. Did you guys enjoy the fireplace video? Hopefully you did. I plan to do more of those, by the way, and if you guys have suggestions or want to vote on what player to roast or what fantasy football analyst to roast, if you want me to roast Matthew Berry or Adam Rank, or somebody else that I think would take it well, and see the humor in it. Any other crazy fantasy channel on Instagram, I will take suggestions and potentially roast those people for you in front of the fireplace in that same format that I did with the Darryl Henderson ruins Todd Gurley's Christmas video. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. Where was I even at? I'm off on a tangent. But Patrick Mahomes, I will do videos on Patrick. That's where I was. I will do videos on Patrick Mahomes being worthless if his ADP climbs. But it won't climb. People People are going to be so upset in the comments of this video. Yes, thank you, Ethan. That was a great story. I agree. I think it was one of my better videos, the fireplace video, and you'll see more. So we'll roast whoever you want, throw out names, throw out a name here, and we'll see if you guys are voting on it. But Patrick Mahomes, people are going to get upset by this video and where I have Mahomes. They're going to say that I have him way too high here, or of course right here. But if I let's say I draft him, and let me put it this way, I would rather have Patrick Mahomes than Todd Gurley. So, would I draft him here? I would strongly consider it. And you can call me crazy all you want. I don't care. I'm not taking Todd Gurley ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I'm just not. During the year, and I'll put it this way, and you can say that I'm crazy, Smitty Claus, that's good. Maybe I'll coin that. That's good. Gurley poem with some real Charles Dickens shit. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. That's the kind of comment I'm looking for. Where was I? You guys get me on tangents here. Roast Fabiano? I can roast Fabiano. Roast Matthew Berry? I'll roast Matthew Berry. I comment to him a lot, and he never responds to me on Instagram. But I actually did a show with him once, a real short segment on HuffPost Live, which he doesn't remember, but that's fine. Take a deep dive on Antonio Brown with the Raiders. I'm fading that situation, says Kerry. Well, Kerry, I totally can understand that. Feel free to spit out what you're talking about in terms of the deep dive stuff, but Antonio Brown, to me, I think, what's going on, Larry? I think Antonio Brown's going to have a big year considering his ADP. I'm not saying he's a lock for top 5. I'm saying given his top 5 upside, given that he's fallen between 15 and 20, 22 in some cases, that's crazy good value with very low risk. But on the topic, let's wrap up the Patrick Mahomes stuff. I would take Pat Mahomes as my third drafted player, even if I'm taking him at the very top of the third round, if it meant passing on a guy I don't believe in, like Gurley. I'd rather take Darryl Henderson later and grab Pat Mahomes here. And to further emphasize that I'm not crazy, to further emphasize that Pat Mahomes is worth the 25 overall pick, even though you don't have to take him that high. How many times do I have to stress this, do you think, before I can help someone not make a comment that says, you're crazy to take Patrick Mahomes at 24, 25? I don't think I could emphasize enough in the video to avoid that. So I'm probably going to get those comments anyways. But Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, without Tyreek Hill even, is locked into 40 passing TDs. Now, a stat you may not know, Pat Mahomes ran for only 2 touchdowns in 2018, which is kind of crazy, a crazy stat. I'd say that's one of the most alarming, or not alarming, most jaw-dropping stats, positive, about a player in a positive, that I found out this offseason. Because if you would have asked me how many rushing touchdowns Pat Mahomes had, I think, what are we saying here? What are you saying, Kerry? If I would have told you, if someone would have told me that Pat Mahomes only had 2 rushing touchdowns in 2018, I would have said, no way. He had at least 4, 5, or 6, the way he ran the ball so efficiently when he ran it. They didn't need him to run the ball as much because that offense was so efficient. But Pat Mahomes could run for 400, 500 yards and have 5 to 6 touchdowns. So without Tyreek Hill, without running a lot of those run plays, with having a little bit less opportunity to deliver the ball to a player like Tyreek Hill, I think that you might see Pat Mahomes run for more touchdowns in 2019. So I give him like 5 or 6 because I think a guy with his talent, he's only bound to find the end zone 5 or 6 times with his ability to run the football. He just didn't need to. So give him 5 TDs. Give him 40 passing on a bad passing year because he misses Tyreek Hill so much. Let's just say worst case scenario. He's a 45 TD passer. 45 TD passers warranted first round picks many years ago. They don't anymore because the thinking has changed, which I get and I'm fine with because I could take advantage of it. But it doesn't make it right. If week 1 kicked off right now, if we started week 1 right now, No one would trade you Patrick Mahomes for your Todd Gurley. I don't even care if week one began. You would get somebody that says, I'm going to wait and see how it plays out. No one would trade you Patrick Mahomes for your Todd Gurley. So why the hell would you draft Gurley over Mahomes? People's values drafting are different than trading. And it's not always the case, and it's not the case across the board for every player. But when your trade value doesn't match up with your draft value, it tells you one of two things. One of them is off, based on bias, based on pure pressure, based on whatever. But the pure pressure to not draft a Pat Mahomes as your top of the third drafted, first overall pick in the third round player is asinine. And it's a dumb movement created by a bunch of pure pressure and fear of taking a QB early is so dumb because the fifth highest scoring QB scores only 10 more points than the 12th highest QB. QB pools are so deep, Smitty. You can't take a QB early if you want to win. I hear that idiotic statement my way all the time. I'm not saying, okay, and let me rephrase this because now I'm going to get a bunch of comments on how I'm saying people are idiots for not waiting on a QB, and I'm not saying that at all either. If you want to wait for a Drew Brees in the 7th or 8th round, a Tom Brady in the 8th or 9th round, I am so okay with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can dominate your league waiting on a QB. You can dominate your league not waiting on a QB. You can win 100 different ways. There is nothing wrong with somebody waiting on a QB at all. Totally fine with it. It's a good strategy. It's one of many good strategies. Another good strategy is taking Pat Mahomes as your third drafted player, even if it's the first pick in the third round. That's also a really good strategy. My problem is when people say it's a bad strategy to take a QB early. That's the idiotic statement. That's the only idiotic statement in the whole argument. Taking a QB late is fine. So for me, I'm going to slot him here. And I'm going to go out on a limb and tell everybody that if I've got to take him at 25, if I have the first pick in the third round and I can't trade it for anything, I'm not taking Todd Gurley over Pat Mahomes. I'm not taking AJ Green over Pat Mahomes. I'm not taking Zach Ertz over Pat Mahomes. I probably, even though I'm ranking Kittle that high, because he deserves it on paper, it is so hard to rank Kittle, Ertz, and Kelsey lower than top 24 overall value because they dominate that position, a thin position this year, even thinner, I think, than most years. It is so hard to not rank those guys in the top 24 or to draft them in the top 24. I just like to draft the next David Njoku. That's why I wait on a tight end. But, yeah, so Kerry, I'm glad we agree on this, Kerry. Kerry says he's good with the best QB in the third round. So if your best QB's Luck, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm not telling anybody that Patrick Mahomes has to be your number one QB. I'm not saying that Andrew Luck can't be number one. But and Kerry says he's not taking Gurley, period. I'm not taking, I'll take A-Rod in the 4th. I'll take Baker Mayfield in the late 4th or top of the 5th. Probably 5th because I think Baker Mayfield will fall. I think taking him early will be a mistake if you can get him later. But is it worth it to grab him instead of grabbing Green and Mayfield later? So, Ethan, perfect question to ask. And I'll put it this way. If you were to get just AJ Green and Baker Mayfield, then over having just Mahomes, then that's something that, yes. But like Caribbean just said, or no, he's talking about Derrick Henry. What player am I going to get where you're taking Mayfield? So if you're taking Mayfield in the 5th, who's available there? Calvin Ridley, maybe. You could get maybe I've seen Aaron Jones go as high as the 3rd and as late as the 5th. But if you land a player like that, or a player like Calvin Ridley, or a player, let's look down the list a little bit here. Philip Lindsay's not going to fall. Who would fall to the 5th? Robert Woods might. Calvin Ridley might. Baker Mayfield I have ranked a little higher than you're going to find him in actual draft, so if you had to draft him later. Diggs may or may not. Diggs goes as high as the third round, which is freaking asinine. I like Diggs, but that's a little high. And as high as the second in some cases. Diggs could fall, though. Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, Jarvis Landry. So to answer your question, Ethan, do I want Mahomes and my shot at what I consider to be my sleeper, the guy that's going to go crazy and be as good as some of those guys in the third and fourth round? I'd rather have Mahomes all day long with that player than have it flopped. So I do like Baker Mayfield. I do like AJ Green, I guess, as a third drafted player, sure. And Baker Mayfield's my number 3 fantasy QB, so I'm okay with your approach too. I think that's a good approach, and if I had 4 different leagues with the same scenarios in terms of picks, I might mix it up and go, okay, I'm going to try another player here in the third because I know I'm going to take Baker, my third, QB overall, which I think is high to a lot of people, but I don't care. Baker's going to have a 40-plus TD season. So I like your approach. It's not better or worse. It's just a different approach. But Mayfield, to me, I'll take Ridley in the 5th, whoever I got in the 5th. So it's a good question, Ethan. I'm not ripping on it at all. Very good question. And a question that I might apply in some cases because I want Baker as well. I want to own Mahomes in every draft I have if I can get him at the right value. But there are situations where I do want to own Baker as well. So I can see myself trying to figure out something in the third if it made sense. But I'm not passing on. I'm not getting. I'm probably not going to take any of those guys ahead of Mahomes unless somebody falls that I just really, really wanted on my roster that I wanted to have with Baker. But right now, looking at the mock that we have, honestly, I love Mahomes at that spot. And I know that's going to create a lot of drama and criticism because the nature of where we are in fantasy football in terms of where QBs go. But I don't care. I'm here to try and tell you my approach and my thinking. And hopefully it resonates with some people. And it doesn't have to resonate with everybody because waiting on a QB is okay. I just want people to know that it's not a bad thing. And people that say drafting a QB early is a mistake, they're the ones that I think are taking the wrong stance. That's what I'm here to do. Not to tell you have to take Mahomes in the third, but I love him in the third. And if Tyreek Hill gets suspended or released tomorrow, let's say, I think Mahomes falls into the 4th round. I think he'll be a top of the 4th ADP guy, which means that Ethan, I would probably take an AJ Green and try and get Mahomes in the 4th round if I had, more so if I had a top of the 4th type pick, because I don't know that he would last too long in the 4th round. In some drafts, he'll go in the 2nd round. It just depends on how people draft in your league, but on average, Mahomes is going in the late 3rd to very late, really mid 3rd to very late 3rd. That's probably going to do the show. I guess we'll lock in the final couple guys. I think Lindsey deserves to be in this top 36. We got to get ready for Game of Thrones, people. I think Fournette probably deserves to go there because you can trade him. I think Jacobs deserves a look. Marlon Mack deserves a look. Aaron Jones deserves a look. A-Rod's getting close, but I think you can wait on him. Baker's getting close for me, but you can wait on him. So whether you throw in Aaron Jones, whether you throw in a Mack, who do you guys want to take here? Let's finish this draft out with 34, 35, 36. Carrie's asking, it's opportunity cost. Sometimes you have to look at, you're making a statement. Look at lineups as well. Do you start 2 wide receivers? Do you start 4 wide receivers? Very good point. But I still would draft the best player available, and Mahomes is the best player available, in my opinion, in that 3rd round. My favorite approach, Carrie, in 2019 is Mahomes in an auction. Mahomes, Ezekiel Elliott, and Alvin Kamara, and then buy cheap all the way around, bunch of sleepers, and have a 3-headed monster. Or Mahomes, and then 3 stud wide receivers, Antonio Brown probably being one of them because he's so cheap. So Mike Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, Pat Mahomes, and maybe if you can pull it off, an Odell Beckham Jr. So if you can pull it off, Odell, Mike Thomas, and let's say Davante Adams with Pat Mahomes. you can win your league with that approach. Go 0 running backs, stockpile on the Kareem Hunts, the Jalen Samuels and Benny Snells, the Darryl Hendersons. I want a team in 2019 where I have Mahomes and those 3 wide receivers, or 3 of the top 5 wide receivers, and then I have a team full of Darrell Henderson, Devin Singletary, Jalen Samuels, all these rookie running backs that are getting overvalued. Mark Ingram at 36 isn't a bad pick. That's the team I want. I'm going to draft that. I'm going to do videos on it, and I'm going to let you guys follow along during the year for people that think you can that you're going to for sure lose if you don't take any running backs early. I love that approach because if I land Darrell Henderson, I land Devin Singletary, I land Jalen Samuels, I land one of those guys. I don't have to land all of them. If I land one of Jalen Samuels, Devin Singletary, Darrell Henderson, or Kareem Hunt later, even you clean up with those wide receivers and Pat Mahomes. Let's lock Ingram into the 36 spot. That means Fournette drops into the 4th, which I think is arguable. Mac at 34 is a good spot, and I think that's a really good looking top mock draft. So let's go through it. Fournette is at the top of the 4th. Aaron Jones, Kerryon Johnson, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, Andrew Luck, Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley, Terry Cohen. Very, 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 I think, good-looking mock draft. So we have Kamara at 1, Elliott at 2, Barkley at 3. Thanks, Kerry. I appreciate it. Okay, so Kamara at 1, Elliott at 2, Barkley at 3, McCaffrey at 4, Hopkins at 5, Melvin Gordon at 6, Mike Thomas at 7, Davante Adams at 8, Lev Bell at 9, Odell Beckham Jr. at 10, David Johnson at 11, Julio at 12, Dalvin Cook at 13, Juju Smith-Schuster at 14, Antonio Brown at 15. I know some of you thought that was too early, but I'm telling you, 15 to 18, he can hit a home run from that spot. Travis Kelce at 16, even though I probably looked to draft a tight end earlier. On paper, you just can't argue it. Mike Evans at 17, Joe Mixon at 18, James Conner at 19, Damian Williams a little high here, but proving a point that he is going to be a monster in 2019. Damian Williams at 20. Nick Chubb, make sure you handcuff him to Kareem Hunt at 21. David Montgomery, a little high to most people, but I love Montgomery this year and for the future. I think he's going to be warranted as a very good running back, too, in 2019. So he's at 22. Kittle at 23. T.Y. Hilton at 24. Pat Mahomes, my first pick in the 3rd round to prove a point. But again, if you can wait, if ADP is dictating come draft day, because ADP could fluctuate between now and draft day, use ADP to your advantage. But Patrick Mahomes, if his ADP climbs to 25, I would take him with the first pick in the 3rd round without hesitation. And if you disagree with that, view the part of the show where I talk about that in detail. Todd Gurley at 26, surprisingly, there is a line in the sand where I take him to trade him away. And I handcuff him to Darrell Henderson at all costs. I'll reach 2 rounds if I've got to, ahead of ADP to make sure if I've got Gurley, I also have Henderson. AJ Green, Zach Ertz, Adam Thielen at 29, Devontae Freeman at 30, Derrick Henry at 31, Mari Cooper at 32, Keenan Allen at 33, Marlon Mack at 34, Phillip Lindsay at 35, and then we rolled with Mark Ingram at 36 with Fournette missing the cut, with Aaron Jones, Kerryon Johnson, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, Andrew Luck, all those guys missing the cut, but very arguable players for that spot. Okay, guys, Game of Thrones is on. Let's in just a little bit here. I think about 15 minutes. So let's end this show, and let's do another one real soon. Thank you for watching. I hope this was beneficial for you and you learned a lot. And I appreciate you guys commenting, and please subscribe to the show if you haven't. Give it a thumbs up. It really helps when we have people promoting the show. YouTube knows to serve it to more people if you hit that thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't. We're growing. You're part of the growth movement of this channel, and I believe that within 1 calendar year, we are going to be a 10,000, 20,000 subscriber channel, and we're going to be doing huge things the bigger we get. So if you want daily content, you need to make sure you spread the word so that we get bigger, so I can get sponsorship, and this show can be on the daily, maybe a 10 to 2 type show Who knows? That's what I want to bring to you. That's my vision. I appreciate you guys. See you next time.